it's Jennifer here from Belladonna's Botanicals. And this video, I'm going to talk about intuition and discernment, trusting yourself and your allies in spiritual communities. I have talked about this before in a couple other videos. I will link them below. They're in Jennifer's Insights, Understanding the Dunning-Kruger Effect Regarding Spiritual Leaders and Teachers, and Jennifer's Insights, Reputation Matters, Intuition, Advice, and Cautionary Tales, where I talked about some of this stuff, but excuse me. I just want to kind of give an updated scope for people who are, since there's an uptick in people who are new to the occult and spirituality and circles like that. Once you're around for a while, you know the red flags, you know what to look out for, but especially now with the state of chaos, especially in the United States, this is really important to have this. So I just want to give you a little information, and based on experience, based on of stuff from other people, as to how to discern those allies, teachers, and leaders in spiritual communities. Because not everyone in the broad spectrum spiritual community is an ally. Just because they are into witchy things, they can still be toxic, And like I said, in the thing, reputation matters. Listen to what people are saying, good and bad. So I'm going to talk about each one of these things a little bit, and there's more on my list here. But so the first is acknowledging, just because we're into, non-mainstream alternative spirituality doesn't mean every single person is going to be an ally. There are a lot of toxic, predatory, cult-like, almost criminal organizations and people operating within the broad spectrum, tip to tail, from the woo-woo love and light all the way down to the more extreme aspects of what I will call black magic and stuff of that nature. So it can hit any one of those. It's just gonna manifest in a much different ways depending on what the spiritual circle is like. And there's some ones I can't really speak for how this would apply to closed practices, because I am not part of them. So that might be a horse of a different color. I'm just giving you what I know from my experience here. So the first, reputation matters. I go this more in the video, but listen to what people are saying, because that often, if you keep going wow, every single person has something negative to say about this organization or this author or this lodge or this group, there's probably a reason for it. Now, you will run into, sometimes there is no underabundance of occult drama. You can usually pick out it's usually easy to discern this is just someone who broke up, went through a breakup, and then all the, split up the group into two different people. Now you have the one side and the other side. So sometimes you get drama like that. Or I don't like this group of people, so I'm going to troll them and start a smear campaign against them. That happens. Wesually when you see multiple layers and years and years and years of people going, stay away. We're saying that for a reason. And it is frustrating to see people just ignore that entirely. Okay, we're telling you the leopard's going to eat your face. So when the leopard eats your face, as it will, because it's a leopard, I'm not going to be too surprised, but you might be. Because I've had the leopard eat my face before. Because when I talk about these things, I'm not talking from them from a high, looking down my nose. I'm like, I've been there. I've seen some shit, So that's sort of the thing. Look at the reputation, and I'm still finding things out. I'm like, oh, this author seems really cool, or this thing, and then I'm like, find out there's some kind of garbage, transphobic, racist, whatever. Okay, well now I'm kind of like, well, this is not going to fall into my book recommendations anymore, or I'm going to do some deeper dives and research into finding out. I'm like, okay, because I'm going to add a little caveat there. One of the big issues with the online world we are in is there's a lot of what I call whisper down the alley, purple monkey dishwasher mode of information transmission. It's like XYZ thing is bad. Okay, well, is there any evidence of this? I need some sources here. I don't need just I saw a TikTok video and now I think, this is, whatever. So I need when I'm looking for in some of that stuff is to vet those resources to kind of look like, okay, I mean, it's very much true. I just want to see evidence of it somewhere because I haven't trusted that in the past. Now, I am willing to, where I haven't trusted in the past, I'll probably get into this a little bit throughout the video, is, people have varied lives. We all do fucked up shit. At some point in time in our life, we said something offensive. We said something we didn't mean. We said something out of ignorance. And the thing is, if there's an evidentiary trail that that person has grown, done the work, made amends if needed, and become a better person along the way, that thing they wrote 20 years ago may just be something they wrote 20 years ago. I have volumes of shit I wrote 30 years ago, and some of them I'm like, oh God, ugh, that's some epic cringe, So that's something to consider there is just because someone thought something 20 years ago doesn't mean they think the same thing now. If they've changed and done better, then that's something you can use your discernment to be like, okay, I see they've changed and grown. It's possible. And I laud that. But yeah. So the next one, and this is my Achilles heel. I will admit this. Trust your intuition. It's probably spot on. I ignore mine every time and get burned. It's every single person that pricked up my intuition of, yeah, no, you don't want to follow, you don't want to get into this fold, you don't want to follow this person, you don't want to, this organization, that. And I've been like, oh no, you're just being judgmental and whatnot. Yeah, I would say at this point, I'm probably no longer connected with any of them because I fucked around and I found out. So again, the leopard will eat your face, even if you think the leopard's not going to eat your face sometimes. And you convince yourself that the leopard's not going to eat your face and you're just being judgmental or whatever. The leopard will eat your face. So, like, if someone sets off, like, we all get sort of vibes about something when you meet someone, when you interact, or maybe they're on a different part of like the socio-political spectrum, and stuff like that, and you kind of make allowances, you give way, because I mean I've done that. Like I'm always like, I want to understand why you think the way you think or why you're doing what you do and whatnot. Boy, howdy, does that bite me in the ass more than once. So what we want to look at on this, and I think I have probably, I think there's an occult community red flags video. I'll try to link to that as well. But I think for me, and this is what I'm struggling with right now, I think one of my biggest failings in life is been seeing the good in people, seeing their potential to heal, grow, and do better, even when they're a walking suit of red flags. I always had hope in that. And where I'm struggling right now is I just don't think I have the ability anymore to see the good in people like that. To be like, okay, you've got some problematic shit here. Maybe you'll heal, grow, and figure it out. I'm like, no, not my problem. I have to protect myself first and foremost. So I can't really give allowances for that anymore. And if there's people that are in my fold that I'm like, yeah, no, the door's closed. I just can't allow that in there. And it very well is probably a PTSD trauma response trying to protect me, but I'm so done. I am so done with that. I've given so many people chances to do better and grow and heal. And well, here we are. So, some of the things that are immediate red flags for me, like right now, and this kind of doesn't matter what end of the spiritual or occult spectrum you're in. If they are focused on, if their spirituality has a much heavier focus on rabid conspiracy theories and anti-science rhetoric, don't walk, run, because they are pushing an agenda on you. And and yeah, like I've had colleagues, which are now former colleagues, in the hashtag dead to me file, that have been in that. And, I kind of suffered in silence through it, or would just be like, "Oh my fucking god," like drinking game of deep state cabal and shit like that, and you know all the stuff. And it's like, and there's just so much of it. I mean, the wellness community is full of so much anti-science. Like, I started out in the wellness community. I'm a traditional, like, therapeutic aromatherapist and herbalist. So I started out in that community, and I eventually ran screaming because I'm like, no, 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 suburban Karen and your Uggs. I don't think frankincense has the same trajectory as getting a measles vaccination for your kids, but it was always like arguing, like it's always arguing against the science of it. I'm like, science exists, science changes. Is science perfect? No, it changes and adapts, as should we all. Um, it's different and but that's one for me. As soon as I start seeing the red flags, and I will admit here, I have had more than my fair share of bullshit from, the medical and pharmaceutical community to deal with in my life. Whether it's medical gaslighting, whether it's doctors dropping the ball on, it's like, hi, there's obviously something wrong with me, and you're just kind of like, well, it's not this. All right, see ya. Or being on medications that don't work, or have worse side effects than the disease, or the in whatever itself. So I try to have a balanced approach to these things, where I mean, like, I can see, like, some stuff. I'm like, okay, there's a little bit of gray area here, but generally speaking, but yeah, the anti-science and the rabid conspiracy theory stuff, nothing will make me run away further faster. Now, what I'm emphasizing here is balance. Like, I mean, there's conspiracy theory type stuff that I'm like, the dead internet theory absolutely makes sense to me. Um, but I don't, my whole entire life isn't evolving or revolving around conspiracy theories and obsessing that every single thing is a conspiracy theory. Like, where I live right now, we've had a lot of, like, brush fires and wildfires because we need rain. And it's like, I was starting to see these people, from other places talk like, oh, the wildfires, or they're man-made. I'm like, we need water, we need rain. That's it. That is it. Like, when the one of the streams or creeks down by the post office, last time I went by, it was like some leaves and a couple puddles, and that was a stream that usually has a lot of water flowing through it. We just need rain. That's all. But it's the what I'm talking about here is the every single thing is a conspiracy theory is a red flag. And I would run the fuck away from that as fast as you can, because chances are you're going to get into that, like, QAnon spiral and, the MAGA stuff and all of that, and it's not a good look. The other red flag for me, and I've kind of tried to educate people on this, but ended up biting my lip more often than not, was stay away from leaders who are either very open or very veiled, like, into, like, I'm sorry, there's a lot of transphobia that I see, and I'm just like, ugh, it's so, like, unnecessary. Like, why would I want to learn from someone who actively hates a group of people for existing, or spreading malicious, conspiracies and lies that are trying to make these people's like, it's not easy being, outside of the norm, as it were. I mean, I've always been for one reason or another, but it's like you're making people's lives harder. Like, if I was sitting there watching a video and then the person was going off on whatever that applied, like, we're like, oh, disabled people deserve, whatever. I'd be like, I'm not watching you again. Not for me. And I would probably tell people, stay away from this person, because there's a lot of ableism in the spiritual communities too, and it is egregious. I will be doing another video that's going to solely focus more on, like, the spiritual bypassing aspects of that, and the toxic positivity. What you see that more in, like, the new age kind of love and light movements. And, like, so much of it is just like, I literally am raging sometimes at the stuff that people post. in like, I'm like, no, like, do you realize? I'm like, I'm sorry, I can't just, willfully think my inflammatory responses away. I have an inflammatory autoimmune disease. I can't just think happy thoughts and my psoriatic arthritis is going to go away. It's not. Hmm. Anywho, so this is one, and I'm going to give a very specific, some specific things around this. Let's see. Actually, hold on. Before I get into that one, I'm going to go into a couple other things first. So I talked about the spiritual bypassing and the anti-science and ableist rhetoric. Um, like being able to have open discussions about these things, because not everyone thinks the same thing or is on like, you don't just graduate med school and become a world-renowned surgeon on day one. It takes time. We're all on different pages. That's fine. Learn and adapt and change. So the other one is, do not allow yourself to be abused or minimized by any leader. They are not gods. They are not worthy of worship. And if they're treating you like you're a moron, run. Or if you have to think exactly the way they think and they're not really giving you any room to build your practice, build your spirituality, or who you are as a person, you're being indoctrinated. You are being indoctrinated into a cult-like mentality. And on that note, you're allowed to leave. You're allowed to honor yourself. Going no contact is harm reduction and absolutely necessary for survival. I've gone no contact with a lot of people who are good friends and colleagues of mine over the years. 2023 up until this summer, or even now, has been me just purging getting the crap out of my life. So if you happen to be someone that was a piece of crap that's no longer in my life, well, that's on you. I'm protecting myself, my energy, and Lucifer always said, love yourself first and foremost, but also protect yourself first and foremost. Those people were not going to come to save the day. I mean, most of them voted against me anyways, as a human on, Affordable Care Act, disabled, etc. So they're not my friend. They actively chose to cause harm to me. So no, we can't just, oh, it's just differences or anything like that. No, that's very minimizing. And I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to allow that energy into my life. And the last thing here is, you do not need to join a coven, group, lodge, order, etc. If you feel compelled to, vet the leaders and the members, because reputation matters. Look for those red flags and make sure you're not accidentally joining a cult. Like, there's a lot of infighting and drama in any group. That's why I have people I work with loosely, but I'm mostly solo. Like, I have some local friends here. I have online people that are in different places. But yeah, most of my stuff I do is me. So there's that. Now, this is what I want to talk about, the last point here. And I'm going to give, because this one is more insidious and a little harder to recognize. Be careful of those people or groups who are problematic, but align themselves with experts and people with good reputations in order to make themselves look better. I'm going to give you the example of Become a Living God, which is sort of a black magic kind of something or another. And this is proof positive of, I should have listened to my intuition on some point, but I came out the other side and whatnot. So when I first kind of started hearing of Become a Living God, this was maybe 5 or 6 years ago, I immediately kind of saw the E.A. Couetting, a Haitian Voodoo course and stuff that he was pushing. I was like, okay, hold up, white boy. But here's the thing. When I looked at the book, The Spider and the Green Butterfly, this is where that nuance and discernment gets a little tricky. When I looked at the book, it's very beautifully written. I never read the whole thing, but in that, he was working with someone. Baron de Prince was the person. And I was like, oh, okay, so he's actually working with someone from that community on bringing this on this. So obviously, something that's in a closed practice, you need to, there's things that can and cannot be, just disseminated and gone through. So, or Well, so I was like, "Oh, well, he obviously, dotted his I's and crossed his T's here, and this is perfectly okay." So, that's the thing. So now I looked at this thinking, "Oh, okay, well, he's gone through all the right measures to do this. It's not problematic." Um, Now, one of the things I found out many years later, what from someone in the closed practice ATR African traditional religions community, Baron de Prince is not at all a well-regarded individual. He broke oaths, and he is like people will not like. Yeah, it's a bad scene. So in this case, it's like he used this. Hey, I worked with a voodoo priest on this, someone who's initiated, and it's all cool. But is it though? Because in that whole thing, he was selling like taking the practice of Haitian voodoo, which is a sacred religion, taking the religious aspects out of it to make to focus on the black magic darker aspects of it, and under the credence of, well, it's okay because he worked with a voodoo priest on it and it was all sanctioned. It really wasn't. So that's one of the things there. Now I kind of looked at that. Now the organization Become a Living God, I kind of was like, all right, well, trying to discern and figure out, I'm like, are they problematic? I mean, they've got like a wide array of, okay, so they've got one of the founders who, I mean, Timothy Donahue is an amazing author. Like he's a really brilliant person, but I'm like, okay, so they've got this kind of leftist, like leftist anarchist kind of, activist type and things. So I'm like, okay, well, how bad can they be if that's one of the founders, then they should in theory be kind of on that spectrum. But then you kind of look at all the other people that they align with over the years. Some were hella problematic. Um like, it's I mean, a selling yeah, it's just bad. Like it's just but on the flip side of that, in order to balance, they align themselves with a lot of people who very well reputed, very amazing authors. I mean, some I'm friends with still. Um, I was joking with like Bill Duvendak the other day. I was like, well, it feels like we've been running a 5 year a 5 year season of Occult Survivor, and congratulations, we've made it down to the end. But yeah, so it's a lot of times, and they'll use the reputation of those people to bolster their own. Like they did that with me when I was for the brief period of time that I was involved with them. It's like, oh look, we have a woman who's part of this. So we're not, an incel, pipeline. But so that is something, that part is a little harder to discern from the get-go. And I did look into all of this stuff at times, and I'm like, back when this was 2021, I think, when Ball was around the time they got deplatformed and all that, I was being harassed by some other person, but a lot of it was, oh look, this article he wrote, which was had association with the O9A and Adam Waffen, which are Yahtzee kind of um criminal organizations. So yeah, but I looked at him like, okay, well, he wrote this when he was what, an angry 19-year-old. He's like in his 40s now. So and I've never seen any outright overt issues that would from him in that sense that would have triggered any kind of alarm system. I mean, from other people, yeah, I did, but um yeah, so that's where it gets a little murky in when you really have to know what you're looking for there when someone is using the reputations of others to gloss over their own shit and to make them elevate themselves and make them look better by standing on your back. But the problem is there, you're carrying a lot of weight, and you're also carrying a lot of damage because your association with that person is going to damage your reputation. Like, I know I damaged my reputation for a time when I was still involved with Become a Living God. Once I went and got done with that, at some point almost 2 years ago at this point, um, I just, yeah, like, I mean, people even told me, even friends of mine that weren't, like, not even in the community, like, "Yeah, you really ding your reputation. They're getting associated with these people." Um, so I'm digging out from that, and the last thing I wanna see is people, because, I mean, there still are really great authors because Become a Living God is mostly a publishing company. So, it is that is what it is, but there's still people who are loosely associated, but not necessarily part of that, because there's the Become a Living God publishing company, which is kind of its own little thing, but then there's the Become a Living God, um, egregor, like, organizational group called, whatever. I also have seen how much they harass other people and bully them and whatnot. I managed to get out of that with minimal damage. I think I sustained more bullying and harassment when I was still involved with them than when I left. So, um, anyways, so I hope you find this helpful, especially if you're new or you're trying to navigate this stuff, because there are some things obviously that you want to be aware of, and I hope that this kind of helps you to have some discernment and understanding the nuance and listening to your intuition. um and I know for me, like, sometimes I'm not always great when people are like, "Oh, don't do that." I'm like, but why? I need to have reasons. So here are your reasons. And I'm gonna drop the links below to the two videos I mentioned earlier. And thanks for watching. Don't forget to click like and subscribe. Be sure to sign up for our e-newsletter and follow us on social media so you know what's going on. I'm gonna be producing a lot more content like this, and reorganizing some of our older content to make it a little more, the flow a little more conducive. So, anyways, I love you all. Bye.